Hello again. Let's continue modifying our die class here so we can come up with a new way of accessing this internally private variable, but treat it as if it was a method instead of having to go through this public method that we had before. So again, we have our private attribute here, die value, and we have this function here which we're creating as a public way of accessing that private variable using getValue, which returns the value of the die. Now, right now, in order for us to work with this, we have to, if you go back to our document class, we have to execute this as if it was a function. And generally, this is an attribute. People would want to access this using simple dot notation instead of having to execute a function. So we can modify this a little bit, and it'll still allow people to access that as if it was an attribute, but still do it internally in here as a function. There's a way that you can modify this, this method that we have here to say that we're going to specifically get a value. So in this case, if I just change this phrase here, I can say get die value. You notice that get is now a separate word. You notice that it turns blue. That's a recognized statement in ActionScript, which will then allow externally someone to get an attribute or get a value from this method as if it was an attribute. We have a little bit of a name conflict though, because if you notice we have the attribute here as die value, and then our method name here is die value as well. So we're going to have a conflict. A common practice is to put underscores between variables that are private. So in this case, if I have underscore die value, that's different than the function name die value. So once you've changed that in all the different instances, we can save this. And I can go back out to the main part of our application and change it from get value to just die value. This is the same thing that we did originally, if you notice back from that code that we commented out in the last video, with the original way that we did this when it was still a public attribute. So if I save this and run it again, you'll see it works exactly the same, but we're treating this as if it was an attribute. Inside here, we're able to then define specifically how this is going to be returning that value, even though it's a private variable. In the next episode, we're going to talk about how you can create all these custom classes dynamically exclusively with ActionScript. We've done this in the past where we had objects that are in the library and we used ActionScript to place them on the stage, but now we're going to do it with our own custom classes.